Journey is one of the most ambitious stories that we've ever told, covering 450 years of African American history, in fact, American history at that.
450 years of the African American experience is a story that really should be told because it actually parallels the 450 years of the existence of St. Augustine. African and African Americans were a part of that history all over that period of time, and it's a part of the story that had to this time had not been told.
We divided it in quadrants that represent some of the more important episodes or chapters of American and African American history, including Genesis, the genesis of the African American experience, which includes original documents that for the first time seen by the public, the 1595 baptismal record, evidence of the first known African American child born in the United States. It happened here. Second quadrant is Fort Mose, Fortress of Freedom, the first freed black settlement in the continental United States. Very important. It's a stone's throw from here. Emancipation Proclamation, breaking the chains, is the third quadrant. The Emancipation Proclamation was read here in St. Augustine, a dirt lot off of St. George Street before it was officially released by Congress. And finally, the Crossroads of Change, this quadrant that recognizes the important role that St. Augustine played in the passage of the Civil Rights Act, July the 2nd, 1964. So together and in between, we have stories of principal characters, objects, rare photographs, paintings, just about everything that we could amass to tell the story of this important cultural thread.
Well, the Woolsworth counter is one of the points at which the attempt to integrate public accommodations took place in St. Augustine. This is the actual counter, the actual seats, and what's portrayed here is 4 individuals who were young people at the time, and we called them the St. Augustine Four because they were arrested, taken before the judge, and the judge actually sentenced them to reform school. We call them the St. Augustine Four now, but at that time they were just standing up for their rights because they felt like if they didn't do it, who would? They actually paid a steep price for what they did, but I think it kind of opened the eyes of a lot of folks, especially in St. Augustine.
The Fort Mose story was built around people who sought freedom here, and that St. Augustine and Fort Mose were a beacon to that freedom. So ultimately, it became a story of freedom as opposed to a story of slavery. And essentially, we talk a great deal about Spanish history here in St. Augustine. And it occurred to me that the battle at Fort Mose that took place in 1740 was actually the high watermark of the Spanish rule here. So I felt that the story should be more widely known because of the heroism and bravery shown by the people during that time.
We tend to think that the civil rights period was all there was to African American history. But, you know, living in St. Augustine, you get a perspective of history that goes back 450 years. So there's a lot of history in St. Augustine, and that's something that we need to tell the story about because a lot of kids don't really know, the role that was played by African and African Americans in the founding of St. Augustine and Florida and the United States.
My hope is that all visitors understand that this is our history. So together, collectively, we are celebrating not only the birth of the American culture here in St. Augustine, but what defines us as a nation, the cultural diversity, this multicultural character that has defined us for centuries and has also brought us together at many important levels. That's what we're hoping people will see here. When they experience the interpretation, they will look at this and say, wow, that's my history. I didn't realize that those peoples were part of my history. And understanding that we are all sharing 4.5 centuries of American history.